Hello and welcome to the Courtauld online graduation ceremony. We expect this event to last about an hour, and we're going to ask all of the graduands to ensure that your microphones are unmuted for the whole of the ceremony. We're going to manage the muting and unmuting of microphones ourselves. And please also make sure that your camera is switched on, because we all really do want to see you and congratulate you. You don't need to worry about speaking during the ceremony, because you'll only be heard when your camera is when the camera is on your group. When your name is read out and when your group is up, please wave as your name is read out, and then after all of the names for your group have been said, there'll be a moment when you can have a kind of group cheer and group celebration before we move on. So the ceremony will now begin, and I'm going to hand you over to Professor Deborah Swallow, the Merit Rousing Director of the Courtauld.
Chairman, trustees, honorary fellows, graduands, distinguished guests, family members, friends, colleagues, and members of the larger Courtauld family. It's a great pleasure to welcome you all here today for our annual degree presentation ceremony, to congratulate our graduands on their achievements and to celebrate their successes. This has been a truly extraordinary year for everyone, with much anxiety, stress, illness, the sadness of loss, and the depression of persistent constraint. And I want to start by saluting all our students for their enormous resilience, their goodwill and their focus, despite the constraints they've suffered as they've managed their studies throughout this difficult and lengthy period of time. However, today we want to focus on celebration. Originally an institute of the Central University, the Courtauld achieved its independent status in 2002 and is proud to be a college of the University of London. And today we celebrate our students' successful achievement of a degree of the University of London. Also, each year the Courtauld has the pleasure of awarding a distinguished person in the academic or art world an honorary degree of the University of London. I'm delighted that today we have the opportunity to welcome this year's distinguished honorary graduand, the highly esteemed artist Yinka Shonibare, CBE, RA. We also have the honour and pleasure of welcoming Julian Agnew, who has been closely involved with the Courtauld all his life, and who will today receive an honorary fellowship of the Courtauld Institute of Art in recognition of his very substantial contribution to this institution. This ceremony traditionally marks the end of the academic year and the successful completion of BA, MA and PhD degrees and diploma programmes as well in art history, conservation and curating. Its aim is to provide an opportunity for students, staff, friends and family to celebrate the work undertaken by our students over the past year, or maybe a few years, to mark their achievement in public and festive style, and to thank you, as students, for choosing to study at the Courtauld. Although we can't do this in the form that we would normally have loved to do and be together in person, we hope that you'll all nonetheless enjoy this event. Despite, or perhaps because of the pandemic, this year's been an exceptionally busy one for the Courtauld. I'm happy to say we've seen major progress in our transformational project, Courtauld Connects, and I'm delighted that the gallery will reopen in November and that we'll be able to welcome you to a celebratory gathering on site after that. In the meantime, the normal business of teaching and research has continued apace, albeit largely online. Everyone has worked as hard as they could to make things work as well as possible, and there have, of course, been some benefits and some learning, despite that lack of the richness of face-to-face interaction. I'm grateful to both our students and our staff for responding to these challenges with such a positive energy, and I know that this presages very well for their future. For some of you, this ceremony will be the first you've experienced of this sort. Most such events derive from medieval ceremonies that admitted candidates for the degree of Master of Arts and gave them license to teach. Although some of you are indeed moving on to roles as teachers, The ceremony is now more broadly symbolic of the successful end of a programme and the transition to the next stage in your lives, whether that be further academic activity or a move into other occupations or professions, whether in the arts or in the broader worlds that many of our alumni claim for their own. But to say more about all of that, I now have great pleasure in inviting the Lord Brown of Madingley, the chairman of our governing board, to address us all.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's my great pleasure to be able to congratulate all of you on this very important occasion. I'm talking to you from my house in London, from where I've conducted more remote meetings and conversations than I ever thought would have been possible. It's not my preferred method of communication, but it is a relatively small sacrifice compared to what society as a whole has experienced. As chairman of the governing board, my primary concern has been the safety and well-being of our students and staff, and it has given me great pride to witness the resilience, creativity, and commitment you all have shown when faced with extraordinarily difficult circumstances. I wish things had been different, but there is no doubt that the Courtauld community has risen to the occasion. On behalf of the governing board, I want to thank all of you for your patience and forbearance during your time with us. I expect that many of you are excited, if not a little anxious, about what the future might hold. You're not alone, but in the midst of great change and uncertainty, I urge you to be confident and optimistic about the future for 3 reasons. First, your degree from this institute has given you skills which will carry you with you for the rest of your lives. Critical analysis, sound judgment, and values-based leadership have underpinned your education here. They are qualities that will never go out of fashion. Second, you're joining a global network of 8,000 alumni in more than 80 countries. This community shapes the future of creative industries, and I hope it will become a source of inspiration, mentorship, and friendship to you in the years ahead. I hope too that you'll become active contributors to our alumni network, helping to strengthen the bonds that make the Courtauld a leader in its field. Third, and perhaps most importantly, you have the opportunity to innovate, to take ideas from your time here to make an impact on the well-being of society and its overall prosperity. Those ideas are grounded in the history of civilizations and enable us better to understand the human condition, what inspires the individual, and what allows us to keep moving forward in a positive direction. They allow us to contemplate the past so that we might build something better in the future. Those are things which cannot be automated. They are skills which can bring beauty back to people's lives when so much of our world can seem ugly, unwelcoming, and unjust. So on behalf of the governing board, let me congratulate you on your achievement. Thank you for the contribution you have made to life at the Courtauld, and ask you to keep coming back, not least to celebrate your graduation in person as soon as we're able. I wish all of you a wonderful celebration and look forward to seeing you at our transformed home in Somerset House very soon.
Thank you very much, Lord Brown. We're now going to move on to celebrate the success of this year's graduands, and I want to pass to Elizabeth Harris, our academic registrar, to read out the names of those awarded the MA Curating the Art Museum.
I ask leave to present the following graduands awarded MA in Curating the Art Museum. If I can ensure that everyone's got their camera on, so I can read out their names. Julie Blees, Elizabeth Cato, Matilda McEvedy, Sophie Ann Paoli, Anastasia Pinesci, and Zaina Sheehan. If you could now all clap and cheer and celebrate your success. Well done, everyone. This concludes those graduates awarded the MA in Curating the Art Museum. Now I'll hand you back to Deborah Swallow.
Thank you. My warm congratulations to the MA Curating graduates. As graduates, you are all now joining the larger community of our alumni, a powerful network, as Lord Brown said, of fascinating individuals who are doing wonderful things in the world. And it gives me great pleasure to introduce you to one of those alumni now. Alex Morris graduated with an MA in Art History in 2008. She's now director of Proxico, a gallery in New York's Lower East Side, which specializes in emerging and mid-career artists from Latin America, particularly Mexico and Colombia. The gallery aims to advance understanding of the role of Latin American art in international art movements, both past and present. Alex co-founded the gallery in 2017 after noticing a need for more representation of Latin American artists in the New York art scene. We warmly welcome her to speak.
Congratulations, class of 2021. I'm honored to share this momentous occasion with you, even if it's from afar. My name is Alexandra Morris, and I'm a 2008 Courtauld graduate. While I'm originally from Mexico, I have lived here in New York City for the past 12 years, where I'm currently the owner of Proxico, a gallery that focuses on the promotion of contemporary artists from Latin America or of Latin American descent. I know graduation is a very exciting but also daunting time in your life. I've come to understand that most big steps in life have this dual aspect. So whether it's a new job, a new home, or starting a new family. For me, that happy, scary feeling is an indication that I'm doing something challenging that also represents real growth. And speaking of challenging, I can only begin to imagine how strange it must be to graduate under the current circumstances. My own graduation actually occurred under different but also difficult circumstances as the world was experiencing a severe financial crisis. But I realized that life does go on, and the love of art is as real and widespread today as it has ever been, which is why each and every one of you is important and relevant. After I graduated and came to New York, I felt really insecure when looking for work. But the people who hired me didn't seem uncertain about me, fortunately. It didn't take me long to understand that the Courtauld brought to my CV a level of distinction that I never knew a school could give me. So on I went. I had a few jobs at art galleries, and gradually I began to notice that there was a gap in institutions and the art market that I wanted to help fill. So I decided to partner with a former coworker and open my own space. As I wrote my business plan, I was mortified by the prospect of failure. But my experience during the last few years has been very exciting. The gallery has participated in prestigious fairs, sold art to renowned museums and private collections, and has been mentioned in the press numerous times. That's not to say it has been easy. I don't succeed at everything, but that's the nature of trying new things. And I've really just learned to roll with the punches and get up and try again and again and again. Lastly, I was told to wish everyone good luck at the end of this video, but I don't like leaving things to chance. And apparently you don't either, which is why you chose this institution. Before an opening, I always tell the artists, don't need to be so worried about every detail, you're in good hands here. Not because I'm a particularly relaxed person, but because I came prepared. I graduated understanding what it means to be disciplined, detail-oriented, and to look at art with all your heart and all your brain. So, class of 2021, forget luck. Know that there is a place out here for you, that you are well prepared, and certainly more than prepared enough to know when you need to work on something to make it even better. You are your own project. Work on yourself until you get to where you want to be, and be so, so proud of what you have already achieved today. Congratulations again.
Thank you so much, Alexandra, for that inspiring speech. We'll now begin to celebrate the success of this year's MA History of Art graduates. And I'm going to hand over to Professor Alex Bovey, our Dean and Deputy Director, to read out the names of those awarded the MA in History of Art.
Thank you, Debbie. I ask leave to present the following graduands awarded MA in the History of Art. I'm going to ask you, cameras on, and do wave when people say your name so that everyone else knows who you are. So the first MA is Continuity and Innovation, Reframing Italian Renaissance Art from Masaccio to Michelangelo, taught by Dr. Scott Nethersoul, Dr. Guido Rebecchini, and Dr. Irene Brooke. Charlotte Brompton, Chiara Comonchiami, Dominic Chambers, Isabel Flack, George Fountain, Esme Garlick, Richard Jakes, Teresa Martins, Riley McCall, Bailey McKeel, Maria Mirando, Joshua Smith, Eleanor Thomas, Igor Vazentunutsky, sorry, Yo-Yo Wang, Lara Wilson, and Sylvia Zani. Congratulations, everybody. You can have your group self-congratulation now if you want. Great. Very well done. Okay, so our next group is Art in Northern Renaissance Europe, 1360 to 1520, reinterpreting the object, taught by Professor Susie Nash. And we have Madeline Beale, Annabelle Lucy Close, Joshua Hiskett, Samantha Horton, and Emily Wilford. We also have students from England, Europe, and beyond, Art, Identity, Trade and Politics in the Middle Ages, taught by Dr. Tom Nixon. So Gillian Bernstein, Bridget C., Hermione Crisp, Lydia Ann Gardner, Ofri Gaze Moav, Tara Jarvis, and Yikwan Leung. Congratulations, everyone. You can now have your full screen woo. Congratulations to you all. Okay, we now move on to the next groups of students. Architectures of Empire, Contested Spaces and Their Legacies, taught by Dr. Emily Mann, Elizabeth Bushell, Arthur Gompertz, and Louise Harris. Miniature to Monumental, Encounters with Medieval Art, taught by Dr. Jessica Barker and also me, Alex Bovey. So Lindsay Boyden, Alan Mitchell, and Zicha Wang. I'm going to do an extra wave for my own students. Bodies of Knowledge in the Early Modern Netherlands, 1530 to 1660, taught by Thomas Balfe. Sarah Blad, Catherine Davies, Gabriel Haberberg, Michel Lavaux, Helen Schilling, Jason Tang, Momchil Zalaratov, and Yu Xiao. Now, time for a group cheer. Many congratulations to you all. Okay, we now have our next group. And the first set of students all studied on Strolling Isfahan, Masters, Merchants and Monarchs, taught by Dr. Susan Babai. We have Sharon Alagband, Emma Burley, Olga Gillen, Manuela Gresani, Elise Kim, Marlene Manuccia, and AJ O'Neill. Then from the group Beijing, Beijing and Beyond, Art and Empire in Early Modern China, taught by Dr. Stephen Whiteman. We have Yi Ji, Helen Kwan, Yichen Liu, Qi Yao Shou, Yixin Xu, and now we can have a group wave and cheer. Good, and good to come with a pre-written yay. I think that was good planning. And our next set is from Circumatlantic Visual Culture, 1770 to 1830, taught by Dr. Esther Chadwick. We have Jessica Armbrister, Georgina Marriott, Chiesa Mondoro, sorry, Emma Pierce, Stella Lovering Scobie, Ji Yoon, and Kaylor Wong. So, your turn for your group cheer. Many congratulations to you. So this concludes the first group of graduands awarded an MA Honours in the History of Art, and I now hand back to you, Deborah.
Thank you so much, Alex, and congratulations to all of you. It's a very great pleasure today to welcome Julian Agnew to our virtual graduation, to celebrate and thank him for the contribution he's made to the Courtauld and to the art world for many years, and to reflect on the longer history of his family's engagement with and support for the Courtauld since it first became an institute of the University of London. And to do this, I do have to go back to the beginning. In April 1934, in what was described as a quiet wedding at Caxton Street Registry Office, Julian's father, Geoffrey Agnew, of the family behind the famous art dealership Thomas Agnew and Sons Limited, married Doreen Jessel, daughter of eminent politician and former Mayor of Westminster. Geoffrey had been educated at Eton and Trinity in Cambridge before joining the family firm, but given that there was no formal university degree in art history in Britain at the time, had no academic training in the subject. His new wife, by contrast, was one of a small group of students who joined the fledgling Courtauld when it first opened its doors in 1932. Putting aside the couple's natural good looks, their personal charms and clear attraction for each other, there was no doubt it was also a shared passion for art and its history that brought them together. It's interesting and important to reflect on the history of Thomas Agnew and Sons and its place in the development of the European art trade. Founded in 1817 in Manchester, by 1877 the company had created its own wonderful premises in Bond Street in Mayfair, and continued to strengthen its prominent position in the trade in old master pictures. Early clients had included the first Earl of Ivy, John Johnson, the Rothschild family, Henry Clay Frick of the now famous Frick Gallery, and George Salting, who gave so richly to the V&A. In the 20th century, Geoffrey Agnew played a key role both within Britain and with his strong British country house connections with major American museums and the next generation of great American collectors, Norton Simon, Samuel Henry Kress, and especially Paul Mellon. And it's notable that many of the major works by Turner, Reynolds, Constable, Zoffany, and Stubbs, which now are on show in the Yale Centre for British Art at Yale in New Haven, are works which were acquired by Mellon through Agnew's. Perhaps no surprise that Julian would inherit the genes and the same passion for art as his parents. Following family tradition, he too was educated at Eton and Cambridge, where art history could now be studied and where he flourished under great scholars and teachers, including Michael Jaffe, later director of the Fitzwilliam, Francis Haskell, and John Pope Hennessy, who was there as Slade Professor in 1964. The course also included visits to the Courtauld collections, which made a lasting impression on him. Following graduation, he became the sixth generation of the family to enter the firm. Like his father, he built on the knowledge and experience of his forebears, but brought new interests, enthusiasms, and knowledge to the business, adding to the company's existing strengths a deep interest in the then less prominent but important Italian artists of the 17th century, such as Guercino, Guido Reni, and Carracci, and working with a new generation or new generations of collectors. Prominent among these was the most significant buying institution of the late 20th century, the J. Paul Getty Trust. The Getty, a major supporter of the Courtauld, is the legacy of businessman and art collector J. Paul Getty, whose money came from the oil business, but whose passionate belief in the value of art led to the gift of much of his personal estate to the trust. This trust, with a much expanded vision after 1983, has become the world's largest cultural and philanthropic institution dedicated to the visual arts, with expanded museums and collections, the Getty Conservation and Research Institutes and the Getty Foundation, and a remit to support arts and culture throughout the world. But what of the Courtauld? As Julian's role in the company developed, his father, Sir Geoffrey, had more time for philanthropic activity. Agnews were regular users of the Courtauld's Wit Library, the over 2 million collections of photographs of Western paintings started by Robert Witt in his house in Portman Square near the original Courtauld and developed as an invaluable asset for students, scholars and the trade, and by now the most important and comprehensive of its type in the world. Recognising the Courtauld's need for funds, Geoffrey Agnew and others set up a Friends organisation for the Courtauld in 1969, and he became chairman, encouraging the art trade, which benefited from the Wit Library, to support it. But also, and this is much before many cultural organisations in this country had fully developed such groups, attracting others more generally interested in the arts to become members and supporters. Realising that yet more was needed, and ingeniously recognising the potentiality of the Wit and its scholarly significance, he arranged for a large proportion of the collection to be put onto microfiche, an innovative photographic pre-digital technology, which raising significant funds for both the Wit and the Courtauld by selling sets of these images strategically to major international museums. Now, this wasn't just Geoffrey. Julian, in 1973, had become the Friends' treasurer and a key player in the project. Deeply supportive of the Courtauld, he went on to become chairman of the Friends and served as trustee on its board until a very short time ago. Throughout this period, Julian Agnew was part of the core group of Courtauld supporters who played a key role in keeping the institution in good fettle and well connected with the wider art world. By the early 21st century, much was changing in the art world, and Julian Agnew's realism and ability to flex were tested. Interests in modern and contemporary art were increasingly overtaking demand for old masters. Agnew sold its gallery in Bond Street in 2008, and in 2013, the company was sold. The name exists, but it operates under different ownership. However, its invaluable archive, so significant for our understanding of 200 years of the London and international art trade, is now safely archived with the National Gallery. Julian's thoughtfulness and sense of social responsibility is evidenced elsewhere too. His great-grandfather Morland founded the Evelyn Nursing Home, later the Evelyn Hospital, as a charity in Cambridge. When it became clear that it was no longer possible to run this as an independent unit, it was sold to a chain of charitable hospitals, and the funds realised have been used to set up the Evelyn Trust, which supports groundbreaking medical research and health and well-being projects in Cambridge and the surrounding area. Julian, having chaired the hospital for 20 years, and also the early years of the Trust, is now life president. I hope that this will have given you all a picture, however inadequate, of Julian Agnew, a person of quiet style, but with a huge passion for the arts and arts institutions and belief in their importance, who throughout his life, like his father and mother before him, has combined this passion with commercial acuity, wisdom, integrity, and a determination to do good in society. So I'm delighted, on behalf of the governing board and the whole community of the Courtauld, to award him an honorary fellowship of the Courtauld. Congratulations, Julian.
Thank you very much, Debbie, for your very kind words. I am, of course, delighted and deeply flattered to receive this award and to join the immensely distinguished body of honorary fellows of the Courtauld. Whatever small contribution I have made to the Institute through the Friends, I regard this award not only as a tribute to the memory of my parents and their much greater contribution, but also as a sign of the reconciliation between art historians and the art trade, who until comparatively recently have regarded each other with mutual suspicion. Next, I would like to congratulate all of you who are receiving your MAs today. You and your teachers have had a very hard time of it over the last 16 months, but be encouraged. We'll meet again at the bar of the Folies Bergère before too long. Some of you may continue as art historians in universities or work in the museums of the world or in the art trade. Others may be tempted towards more fashionable occupations, such as mergers and acquisitions or epidemiology. But I hope you will all have acquired from your time at the Courtauld the at great works of art with a discerning eye and to derive enormous pleasure from that. As the author Anne Patchett put it in her novel Bel Canto, some are born to make great art and others are born to appreciate it. It is a kind of talent in itself to be an audience, whether you are the spectator in the gallery or are listening to the voice of the world's greatest soprano. Not everyone can be a great artist. There have to be those who witness the art, who love and appreciate what they have been privileged to see. I have had that privilege all my life, and I'm sure that your time at the Courtauld has given that privilege to all of you too. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Julian. And yes, indeed, we all look forward to not only raising the glass in front of the bar at the Folies Bergère, but being able to, as you say, witness those great works of art back in a gallery which we can access before too long. So we look forward to that. And thank you, and for all you've done for us. I now return to Alex to announce the names of the next group of graduates for the MA in the History of Art.
Thank you. I ask leave to present the following graduands awarded MA in the History of Art. And please can I ask that you turn your cameras on? Great, lovely to see you. So our first group includes students who've taken Victorian science and the aesthetic movement in art, taught by Professor Caroline R. Scott, Katie Bannister, Harriet Pollard, Alexandra Rankin, Reem Samawi, and Beverly Taylor. We also have students from Beyond Utopia, New Geographies of Russian Art, taught by Dr. Maria Milieva, Uma Karavadra, Melina Malikay, Abigail Miller, Olivia Neville, Anna Ulanova, and Olga Voronetskaya. So please now take the whole screen and cheer yourselves. Many congratulations to you all. Okay, our next heat of graduands includes those studying on Beyond Abstract Expressionism, American Origins, Global Afterlives, taught by Dr. Oliver O'Donnell, Annabelle Faye Claire Gorman, Hayden Grazer, Eliza Rennie, and Erwin Zimmerman. We have students from Modernism after Postmodernism, 20th Century Art and its Interpretation, taught by Professor Gavin Parkinson. Zhao Yao Zhuo, Adelaide Pacton, Freddie Warshaw, Shuyu Wen, and Lucy Wincourt. And the final group on this screen were from Experiencing Modernism, Utopia, Politics, and Times of Turmoil, taught by Dr. Tom Wilkinson. So Peyton McHugh, Veronica Myers, Tom Smeaton, Beatrice Spielmans, Emma Veljaka, and Zhao Zhui Zhu. So please take over the whole screen and celebrate. Many congratulations to you all. Hello to our next group of students, which includes those from New York, London, Paris, 1890 to 1940, taught by Professor David Peters Corbett. Clarissa Fornara, Phoebe Fenton, Mary Hawley, Francisco de Borja Herzog Luque, Isabel Sagraves, Raphael Sevrin, Emily Whittle, and Rebecca Williams. From Collecting and Curating the Modern European Art, 1863 to 1930, taught by Dr. Natalia Murray. We have Joseph Bridge, Emi Diamond, Felicitas Casper, Bruce McCoy, Flora Vesterberg, and Lily Waterton. Congratulations to you, and please take the screen for gestures of celebration. Many congratulations to you. Wonderful. Okay. Our next room has no cameras on, so I hope you'll flick them on so that cheering can be witnessed. We have students from Documenting Fashion, Modernity, Films and Image in America and Europe, 1920 to 1960, taught by Dr. Rebecca Arnold. Lucy Corkish, Genevieve Davis, Ruby Redstone, and Catherine Reed. From Countercultures, Alternative Art in Eastern Europe and Latin America, 1959 to 1989, taught by Dr. Clara Kemp. We have Saskia Hartman Davies, Grace Hogan, Laura Lane, Danilo Marquez dos Reis, and Yulia Toshiva Haggard. So the screen is yours for waving and celebrating. Many congratulations to you all. Fantastic, thank you. Our next set of students includes those from the course Global China, Contemporary Chinese and Chinese Art and Geopolitics, taught by Dr. Wenny Teo. We have Rory Colburn, Miranda Curtis, Luca Hugh Williams, Dot Jihan Jia, Jieying Cao, Coco Chu Chiao Li, Jiang Li, and Daphne Takahashi. From Documentary Reborn, Photography, Film, and Video in Global Contemporary Art, taught by Professor Julian Stalabras, we have Mary Gatenby, Rachel Kubrick, Samantha Ozer, and Samantha Siegler. So please take the screen. Many congratulations to you. Rachel has a sign. Fantastic. Thank you very much. Okay, from in the next group, we have Professor Sarah Wilson's students from Global Conceptualism, The Last Avant-Garde or A New Beginning. Charlotte Alderman, Erica Davletov, Madeline De Filippis, Agnese Olivieri, Livia Polacco, and Carolina Svobodova. We have the 60s, eccentric, erotic, and psychotic, taught by Professor Jo Aplin. Not a description of her or of the students, I think, but who knows. We have Isabel Alexandra Avery, Jamie Danis, Kaya Grimson, Jamie Kodera, Eleanor Mascataya, and Juliet Meadway McLaughlin. Congratulations to all of you. So please take the screen. And that concludes all of the graduands awarded an MA in the history of art. But we need to keep this group up because we have one doctoral student to celebrate. I ask leave to present the following research student awarded Doctor of Philosophy, Su-Young Lim, for her thesis, Lee Seung-tae, Reconfiguring Avant-Garde Art in Post-War Korea. Many congratulations to you for that huge accomplishment. So another clap, I think, for Su-Young Lim. And now my wonderful colleagues who've taught you all through your master's degrees and in one case for the PhD, want to join us now to say well done, to celebrate your success. So we'll invite their room on for hearty congratulations. Yeah, come on, with voice, people, with some voices.
You can hear me, right?
Yeah, we can hear you, Suzanne.
Happy birthday, Charlotte Alderman.
Okay, wonderful. Well, I wish we were all together, but we are in a way. And so now I'm going to hand you back to Deborah Swallow.
Thank you so much, Alex. And it's just lovely to see so many students with us despite the circumstances, and congratulations to you all. Such a pleasure to see you all. It would be difficult to overstate the pleasure I have in welcoming our distinguished honorary graduand to the virtual Courtauld on this auspicious occasion. Inka Shonibare, CBERA, is one of the most distinguished of our contemporary artists and one whose work has a tremendously important relevance to us all. Nominated for this award by our student body, the nomination was rapidly recommended to and approved by our governing board and endorsed with enthusiasm by the whole community. Inka Shonibare is an artist whose work speaks powerfully to everyone. It's distinctive, it's recognizable, of strong aesthetic appeal, and consistently thought-provoking. But for art historians, it has a special resonance as his interdisciplinary practice regularly references Western art history and literature, using these references to question the validity of contemporary cultural and national identities within the context of globalization. Drawing richly on his British Nigerian personal heritage, he examines race, class, and the construction of cultural identity with intellectual acuity and visual skill, creating works of art which comment on the complex, tangled, and interwoven relationships of Africa and Europe and their respective and interconnected economic and political histories. But let's go back a little. Yinka Shonibare Sibiyare was born in 1962 in London, but returned to Nigeria, growing up in Lagos, and then visiting England annually. He then chose to return to England to join art school, sadly, though, falling ill with transverse myelitis, which delayed his enrolment at the Byam Shaw School of Art and resulted in long-term disability. Subsequently, he took an MFA at Goldsmiths, where he was challenged by one teacher to create, quote, authentic African art, quote, a challenge which framed his subsequent development, but perhaps not always in the way expected by the teacher. What was the meaning of authenticity for an artist brought up in England, in urban Nigeria, fluent in English, but always speaking Yoruba at home, equally at home with Yoruba custom and with the media of the US, British and Western worlds? Although a contemporary of the Young British Artist and a participant in Sensation, Young British Artist from the Saatchi collection, Shonibare's concerns about art differed greatly from theirs. Many of his works require complex enactment, both through photography, film, and physical installation. An early example placed the artist himself within the work of art. Diary of a Victorian Dandy of 1998 is a series of photographs depicting him playing the role of the dandy, strongly echoing Hogarth's Rake's Progress. Identifying the dandy as an outsider or foreigner, using his flamboyance, wit and style to penetrate a society that would normally be closed to him, it goes straight to the heart of the role of the black artist. The construction of identity, conditions of post-colonialism, and the British propensity to nostalgic representations of its heritage. However, it was the stimulus of his explorations in Brixton markets where he discovered the brightly coloured Dutch wax batik cloth that had become the symbol of African identity in the 1960s that has marked much of his subsequent work. The cloth, of course, has a fascinating history. Now also made within Africa itself, it was originally inspired by Indonesian batik design, mass-produced in Holland for their colonial markets, and eventually sold in West Africa as part of a global trade in textiles that was central to Dutch, French, and British imperial economies. After an initial experimental phase, Shonibare began using these textiles to create figures for mannequins in imitation of 18th and 19th century European costume and fashion, creating his most distinctive work, mannequins which, like many of the actual dressmakers' mannequins, remained headless, but where headlessness, of course, added significance. In 2002, Shonibare was commissioned by the great Nigerian curator, the great late Nigerian curator, Okwuenwezo, for Documentary 11 at Castle to create Gallantry and Criminal Conversation, a signal and recognised work which launched him onto an international stage. In this work, Shonibare makes reference to the Grand Tour, the practice of international travel, which in the 18th century became a rite of passage for young noblemen of the northern European countries. The costumes are tailored from printer's signature African Dutch wax cloth and include those symbols of that tour, the coach, travelling boxers, figures dressed in European-style costumes of the 18th century, but all made with African prints. Shortly after, in 2004, he was nominated and shortlisted for the Turner Prize for his exhibition Double Dutch at the Museum Boijmans van Beuningen in Rotterdam and his solo show at Stephen Friedman Gallery in London, which included The Swing after Fragonard, representing the celebrated 18th century painting by Fragonard of a young woman kicking out her legs from underneath a froth of petticoats while lounging on a swing. Luxury, wealth, and frivolity are symbolised through dress, through fabric branded with a modern commercial logo, though fabric branded with a modern commercial logo, of course, supplies the humorous twist. The Fragonard theme continued in 2007 with his participation in the exhibition Jardin d'Amour, mounted for the bicentenary of Fragonard's death at the Musée du Pré Branly, which, as Sarah Wilson would say, the controversial museum showcasing les arts premiers, whether you translate that as tribal arts, primitive arts, first arts, or ethnographic arts, it has its own inherent problematic. A Garden of Love recreated central scenes from Fragonard's The Progress of Love, which is dated to 1771 to 73, in 3 dimensions. And as Sarah Wilson wrote recently, and as I know her students have all read, I quote, life-size models in extravagant dresses with garlands and props composed in an artificial maze of leaves and trellises. The delicate rose tints and pale blues of silk and lace were replaced with Shonibari's African imported textiles or waxes, patterned with contemporary logos. Yet something was absent. The doll-like complexions and expressions of Fragonard's amorous young protagonists. Shonibari's figures were already decapitated. The bloody figure of the guillotine was brought into these frozen tableaux vivants and anticipated the specific fate of Madame du Barry, Louis XV's former mistress, who commissioned the paintings for her Maison de Plaisance in Louveciennes, and who ordered their removal, but to no good effect, as she lost her own head, nonetheless. End of quote. Shonibari's great trajectory continued. The same year, his work was included in the 52nd Venice Biennale. A major mid-career survey started at the MCA Sydney in 2008, then toured to the Bricklaying Museum, New York, Museum of African Art at the Smithsonian Institution, Washington, D.C., so spanning the whole period of 2008-2009. But in the UK, I think it was his work for the 4th Plinth Commission in 2010 that launched Shonibari fully into the widest of public imaginations. Nelson's Ship in a Bottle was the fourth Plinth Commission and was displayed in Trafalgar Square, London, until January 2012. This was the first commissioned for the plinth by a Black British artist. And not surprisingly, the work was part of a national fundraising campaign subsequently to secure it for the nation, organised by the Art Fund in collaboration with the National Maritime Museum, where the sculpture is now permanently displayed in Greenwich Park. Over the past decade, Shonibari has continued to work with immense creativity. His works have been shown and acquired by major museums, galleries and collections. To name some of them, Tate and the Victorian Art Museum in London, the National Museum of African Art, the Smithsonian Institution, Washington, D.C., the Museum of Modern Art, New York, the Museum of Contemporary Art, Chicago, the National Gallery of Modern Art in Rome, Moderne Museet in Stockholm, the Van den Broek Foundation in the Netherlands. In 2019, Refugee Astronaut went on permanent display at the Wellcome Collection here in London, and his installation, The British Library, initially shown at the Old Reference Library, Brighton, and then as part of the Diaspora Pavilion during the Venice Biennale in 2017, was acquired by Tate and is currently on display at Tate Modern. Public and peer recognition have rightly followed. He was elected a Royal Academician in 2013 and awarded the decoration of Commander of the Order of the British Empire, CBE, in 2019. This year, he was awarded the prestigious Whitechapel Gallery Art Icon Award. And this pace of activity continues. This year, he's coordinating the Royal Academy Summer Exhibition, which will, a little late because of COVID, open in September. It will celebrate the joy of creation through the theme of reclaiming magic. And a major retrospective of his work is currently open at the Museum der Moderne in Salzburg, Austria. As interesting for us all is an initiative that he's undertaken in Nigeria, where he's developed an important initiative which will shape the country's cultural and creative landscape. His political views, themes and explorations are integrated into the mission and vision of his latest philanthropic initiative, Guest Artist Space Foundation, or GAS. The foundation is creating an artist residency space to provide opportunities for creative and cultural exchange for African and international artists. It will be a platform for participants to engage critically with different art disciplines, cultivate connections amongst creatives, curators, collectors, and ecologists, and tackle the exclusionary barriers of the art world by offering networking and career development opportunities for emerging local talent. Yinka, if I may, thank you. Thank you for inspiring us all. And thank you for agreeing in the middle of this tremendously busy year that you're having, despite lockdown and all the complexities of that, to accept this honour with us. We are deeply honoured in turn. And may I then move formally to say that it is my great honour, privilege and pleasure, on behalf of our Chancellor, Her Royal Highness, the Princess Royal, to confer on Yinka Shonibare, CBERA, the degree of Doctor of Literature, honoris causa of the University of London. We're unable to be together. I can't throw the hood over your head. I can't shake your hand, and I can't give you the scroll. We'll do that later. But we would, and we will definitely find an opportunity to do that, and hopefully with students amongst us too. But I would very much like to invite you as our honorary graduate to say a few words to us. Thank you.
Thank you so much for everything you said. Well, may I take this opportunity to thank Lord Brown of Madingley, Professor Deborah Swallow, parents, undergraduates, and postgraduates. I'm humbled by your decision to confer such a prestigious honor on me. Congratulations on your wonderful achievements. You have the great responsibility of being the custodians of history and our visual culture in our cultural institutions and educational establishments in the future. You will go on to shape the cultural landscape of our diverse society. My own story is one of physical paralysis and personal agency. When I was 19, I caught a virus which left me completely paralyzed. This was when I knew that my survival would be based on my ability to rebuild not only myself, but the world around me, to make the impossible possible, to always turn my negatives into positives. This is what I've always aspired to do, and I think you should always strive to do that too. Turn your negatives into positives. My own journey has not been a straightforward one. I have learned to navigate the barriers of the legacy of colonialism, disability, and regressive assumptions about people of African origin at the start of my career. One thing that has liberated me is my open-mindedness to the possibility for change and growth within society. To realize that in our diverse society, we must be open to the continuous formation of our identities, to always be open to new possibilities, to new points of view. To quote Stuart Hall on identity, from this I came to understand that identity is not a set of fixed attributes, the unchanging essence of the inner self, but a constantly shifting process of positioning. We tend to think of identity as taking us back to our roots, the part of us which remains essentially the same across time. In fact, identity is always a never completed process of becoming, a process of shifting identifications, rather than a singular, complete, finished state of being. My simple dream is to create a better understanding between cultures, between ideological positions, to reduce misunderstandings between peoples, to banish culture wars. I have, through my art and now the work of my foundation, created a residency program for artists and curators in Nigeria. I hope you will participate in such open-minded international cultural programs in the future to foster the spirit of collaboration. To quote a Nigerian proverb, a single tree cannot make a forest. I wish you luck in your future endeavors. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Yinka. There are so many profound thoughts in what you've just said to us. I know it will resonate with our current students, those who just graduated for many years. And I hope indeed that there will be links with your foundation and with many other such endeavours in the future. But thank you again so much. We're so pleased to have you now as part of the larger Courtauld family.
Thank you very much indeed.
Again, thank you. And finally, we turn to someone who may be well known to some of you, who is distinctively a graduand of this morning's ceremony and our incoming Student Union President, Ruby Bonsal. Ruby, I pass over to you to say a few words.
Hello everyone. It is so wonderful to be addressing the Courtauld's graduating class of 2021. After the year we have all had, graduating today feels like twice the achievement, something we can all take such pride in. Although I know we all imagined walking across the stage to collect our diplomas to the rapturously embarrassing applause of our family and friends, there is something oddly fitting about this online ceremony, matching the nature of this past year's university experience. As a graduating BA student myself, special mention goes out to my cohort for enduring an incredibly tumultuous 3 years. The distant past of our first year, baptised through pub crawls to St Paul's and marathon staircase journeys up and down our home at Somerset House, saw us move to Vernon Square, where we joined the picket lines in support of our striking tutors and professors. Second year was a mix of shaking off our freshers' shells, writing essays that actually mattered, and then of course the suspension of on-campus learning due to the coronavirus. Perhaps the only sigh of relief made by Debbie, our director, or Alex, our dean, over the past 15 months was their initial assumption that students would no longer be able to occupy their office doorways, petitioning for improvements to the counselling service or greater representation in our curriculum. It brings me immense pride that not even a worldwide pandemic could stop this Courtauld student body voicing their concerns as powerfully as possible. Through online open letters, surveys, and emergency Zoom meetings, student advocacy has continued to thrive at the Courtauld. This past year, we swapped lecture theatres and statement coats for childhood bedrooms and pyjamas. Our calendars were no longer punctuated by summer balls and final classes, but by our numbers and Boris's announcements. This unusual backdrop transformed our academic endeavours into both refuge, but also at times insignificance. I have unquestionable admiration for our graduate diploma and MA students, whose entire experience at the Courtauld has been through a pandemic lockdown lens. Despite dodgy internet connections, sometimes huge geographical distances, and massively impactful facility closures, we have seen our postgrads set up societies and host exhibitions whilst producing outstanding research, becoming pillars within our student community. The pandemic too dramatically altered our experiences as burgeoning art historians. When we began our degrees, the importance of in situ learning was paramount. Being able to see and interact with the objects of our research was a foundational element of our Courtauld education. It is somewhat ironic that it was only when galleries and museums, the prescribed loci of art historical conversation, ceased to play a part in our everyday lives, that our subject itself entered into the mainstream through a questioning of Britain's memorial tradition. At long last, our niche skill set meant we became the oracles of knowledge around the family dinner table, decoding the art historical significance of looming statues and the rightful questions being asked about their continued existence. I hope we all leave the Courtauld with an incredible sense of achievement for thriving during the trials and tribulations of this past year. In the face of unquestionable challenges, this student body has remained defiantly strong-minded and firmly socially conscious. It was our student voices that prompted a wave of intersectional, lasting change at the Courtauld in our support of Black Lives Matter and our mourning of George Floyd's murder. Nancy's unwavering dedication in leading the SU and representing our student body throughout one of the most challenging of years serves as tremendous inspiration. As incoming SU president, I hope I can emulate some of her dynamism and commitment. Whilst we may tire of explaining exactly what the Courtauld is to every friend, employer and distant family member, our university experience has been undeniably special. Given our unique academic immersion into the depths of the specialist art historical world during our time at the Courtauld, I wonder whether we would all answer the same as George Bernard Shaw when he said, "Which painting in the National Gallery would I save if there were a fire?" The one nearest the door, of course. Whether you are leaving the Courtauld to join the world of work or staying on for further study, I look forward to seeing you all at our upcoming graduate celebrations or later in the year for the gallery reopening, and I hope you all have a wonderful graduation.
Thank you so much, Ruby. And of course, our thanks go to Nancy, our last year's student union president. But we much look forward to working with you, Ruby, over the next year. I know that you'll continue to challenge us in exactly the right ways. This just leaves me to thank you all for all you've done this year, not just our students, but also all of our faculty, our staff, and those supporting students throughout the institution. But to thank you for your company over the past hour, to congratulate all your students on your success and wish you success in your future careers. This has indeed been an unusual time for everyone. You've weathered disruption, relocation, some of you, as Ruby was referring to in the early years, and complex transitions, recurrent complex transitions caused by the pandemic, and you continue resilient and resourceful. I know that this will not be the end of your association with the Courtauld. Each and every one of you has been an important part of our community, and I really hope that you will remain so. And please look out for further information on our Alumni Association, which will be sent out soon to you. Today, you've heard from one of our wonderful alumni. Being part of that network, as the chairman himself mentioned earlier in the afternoon, will keep you close to the friendships, networks and opportunities for learning and support that I hope have been a large part of your time with us. Now, at this point, I would normally also be welcoming you to a convivial reception, and I'm sad that this is not possible. But we hope very much, as I said earlier, to hold a physical celebration of your achievements once the gallery is open. Social distancing restrictions have been reduced and we're back to something closer to what we know as normality. We'll keep you well informed of our plans. But for the moment, our warmest congratulations again on all you've achieved at the Courtauld, and to you and your families and those close to you, my very best wishes for your future. Congratulations.